Hello there all my lovely jewelry makers, I'm Christina of CSLdesigns and today I'm going to show you how to make this chevron effect wire weave, and you can of course use it for whatever you want to. So if you want to learn how to make it, then keep watching. So I'm going to be using 5 lengths on my 1mm base wire here, but you can use more or less, that's completely up to you. And then my weaving wire is going to be a 0.4mm here, and I'm leaving this attached to the reel. So I'm starting with 1 length of my base wire here, and then I have my weaving wire where I'm starting towards one end, just leaving a short little tail. I'm going to place that behind towards one end of the base wire, and I can just hold on to that tail. And then first of all I want to attach this, so I'm just going to wrap it around once, so just like that, and then it's attached there. And then we need to start bringing in the other base wires as well. So I'm grabbing the next one, placing that on top, so it's the new top base wire. Then I'm going to bring my weaving wire over the top of both of them, all the way down behind, and then over the top of both of them again. So I now have 2 wraps around both of them, and they lay right next to each other, and you can always push them tighter with your pliers. Then I want to come up between the 2 that we just wrapped over the top of, bring in the next base wire, lay that as the new top one, and then go over the top of the new top 2 base wires there, leaving the bottom one out, up in the same place to go over the top of them again, and push that nice and tight, and then come up between those 2 base wires we just wrapped over the top of, and we can use that to also help push the wraps tighter. Now we have 3 base wires, so we bring in the 4th one, place that as the new top one, and then go over the top of the top 2 now, come up in the same place so we can wrap around them again, and then come up between the 2, push that nice and tight, bring in the last one in this case here, and then just go over the top of the top 2 again, making sure to do that twice. Now the only difference now is we don't come up between those 2 base wires that we just wrapped over the top of, because now we are at the point where we've done one side of the first pyramid basically, and we're at the very top. So now we need to make our way back down, which means instead of stepping up like we just did, we now need to step down. And obviously all the base wires are attached now as well, so we don't have to worry about that. So what I'm going to do is kind of step down 1 base wire, which means I'm going to come up between the bottom 2 and top 3, so right here. So I'm going to wrap around the next 2, which means I'm coming down between the top 2 base wires. So we're just wrapping around these 2 here, which are equivalent to the second last one that we did when we did just before reaching the top 2. And of course make sure to wrap around them twice, just like all the others. And then basically we now just want to keep stepping down 1 base wire every time. So I'm going to come up between the bottom 2 to wrap around the next 2 base wires here, next step down, and then come up in the same place to wrap around them again. Make sure to keep your wraps nice and tight. You can always bring your pliers back in if you need to, just help push them tighter together. And then I'm just coming all the way down behind, because now we just need to wrap around the bottom 2 base wires, just like that, to basically complete the first pyramid here. And then just want to push them tight, and then that's the very first one. So we've done the first side and then reach the point and then come back down. So then now it's time to create this little separation wall, you could call it, we're going to have between the pyramids. So what I'm going to do, instead of bringing the wire down, I'm going to bring it upwards, so straight up behind the base wires, and then I'm going to start wrapping around first of all the top 2 base wires. So that means they're going to come down between the second top and the third top one there, and then repeat by wrapping around them again, the same 2, and then this is happening right above where we finished that last pyramid. So I'm just going straight above that. Now come up between those 2, because now we need to start stepping down, and then wrap over the top of the next 2 base wires, and then come up in the same place and do it again. So we get those 2 wraps, and then we've done those 2, so we need to step down again. So basically what we're doing now is stepping down every time we do a new wrap around the base wires, and I then need to come up between those 2 that we just wrapped, step down 1 base wire, which is between the bottom 2, and then just come up in the same place so we can wrap around them again. And then all that's left is come up between the bottom 2nd and 3rd one, so we can just wrap around the bottom 2 by themselves, and of course also do that twice. And if you need to, you can just push anything tight with your pliers, and there we basically created our first little separation wall. So technically this is really just the first half of a pyramid. So instead of continuing now, I'm just going to start a new pyramid, and I'm going to do that in the same way that we just did this little separation wall. So I'm going to bring the weaving wire all the way up behind all the base wires and come upwards there, and then I'm going to start the next pyramid by wrapping around the top 2. So basically we're now starting this, and we're going to continue this in the same way that we just did this little separation wall. So I'm wrapping around the top 2 first of all, and then come up between them, step down one to wrap around the next 2 base wires like that, making sure to do the 2 wraps every time, and then come up between those so we can step down one again, do the 2 wraps for that one, and then we want to come up between those so we can do the final wraps around the very bottom 2, which is then the point of the pyramid. So this pyramid that we're making now is going to face in the opposite direction to the first one. So the first half we did here was the same as that little separation wall, and technically also the same as the second half of the first pyramid. But now we need to step down on the pyramid again, technically upwards on the wires. So I'm just gonna now step up 1 base wire, which means I'm coming up between the top 2 and bottom 3, because this one I'm going to continue making a full pyramid rather than just that kind of separation wall. And then up between the same place so we can do that double wrap, step up 1 base wire again, down over the top of 2 and repeat, and then behind the base wires to come around the top 2 base wires by themselves and do that double wrap. And that then basically completes this pyramid, which you can see is then facing in the opposite direction to the first one, but we then have that separation wall perfectly aligned in between them. And then the next thing we need to do is another separation wall, but this one needs to go in the opposite direction to the first one. So basically just following the shape of the pyramids with how you need to create the separation walls that we're making in between them. So I'm just going to have my weaving wire here coming down behind all the base wires and then start this next separation wall from the bottom. So I'm going to wrap around the bottom 2 base wires first of all, and remember to do that twice, and then come up between them and then step up 1 base wire to wrap around the next 2 again twice, come up between those, step up 1 base wire, which means I'm coming down between the top 2, do that twice, and then come up between those so I can wrap around the top 2 base wires there and finish off this separation wall. So it looks a little something like that. And then we're ready to create the next pyramid, which is going to look exactly like the very first one we did. So just bring your weaving wire all the way towards the bottom, and we'll basically make this separation wall we just did, do that again. It's going to be the first half of the next pyramid. So starting from the bottom, working my way all the way up towards the top, and then to complete that pyramid, just make our way back down to create the other half there. So stepping down now, 1 base wire at a time, do the double wrap each time, step down, so I'm now coming up between the bottom 2 and go down between the 2 we wrapped around before, and then down behind all of them to wrap around the bottom 2 by themselves, just like this. And this has now completed this pyramid that we were just working on. You can see that's looking exactly the same as the very first one. So you basically just continue like this. Now next we need to create another wall, and this is going to follow the direction of this second half of this pyramid we just made. So that's the first wall that we did, and you want to make another pyramid that's facing in the opposite direction and just continue like this until you have the length you need. So this is how the final weave looks, and you can of course use it for wherever you want to, and you can also make it wider by using more base wires or narrow by using less. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Now I do have a playlist full of tutorials for other wire weaves, so I'm going to leave a link to that in the description box down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.